Hi, everyone. Henry DeVries from the California Business Journal. Welcome to this episode of Wealth Authority TV. And we certainly have an authority with us today, Cody Foster of Advisors Excel. Cody, how are you today?
I'm good, Henry. How are you?
Well, I'm excited to have you on and get some of your wisdom for financial advisors and wealth managers. And I guess the first thing is if you could do a brief introduction for you and the company
Sure.
that you co-founded.
Yeah. So one of the co-founders here at Advisors Excel, and we really support independent financial advisors all across the country. So work with about 600 independent financial advisors, helping them primarily with the insurance and investment side of their business. So have a insurance marketing organization, broker dealer, registered investment advisory platform that the advisors use. So started it 21 years ago. It's grown like crazy. Just such an incredible business to be a part of.
I have to get out to see the new building in Topeka. I saw the last one and was very amazed and impressed. So I'll have to see the new digs. And you're very
Yeah.
committed to the city of Topeka. Is
Yeah,
that
well,
true?
actually, you want to wait just a little bit because we bought our mall. Like a lot of these big malls in America aren't going
Yeah.
great. So we bought that. We're renovating a big chunk of that, and we're going to move the two campuses into one there and try and save this mall a little. We'll see how that goes. Retail's a tough business. It makes me appreciate financial services so much more.
I I I've dabbled a little in retail and I'm all for financial services too.
Me too.
Um, yeah. So um, uh, what's the biggest trend that you're seeing right now for financial advisors and wealth managers in 2026?
Obviously, I think like anything, AI and AI tools are a hot topic, right? Everyone is talking about those. I think what we're seeing there is some of these tools are actually they're making the advisor so much more productive, right? The amount of value they can provide to their clients is a huge part of that. I think there's also a little fear or uncertainty that comes with that. You know, some advisors wondering if AI is going to replace the value or the job that they do, which I think that's probably wildly overblown. I think there's some tools
Yeah.
that are super beneficial for the advisor, but I would say that's probably the biggest thing that you're hearing advisors talk about right now is how can we leverage these tools to do a better job for our clients and or, how's it going to change the way that we do business and serve our clients going forward too?
I know Reed Aberdeen, one of your advisors, recently was writing about, the concern for robo-advisors, and while Gen X and Gen Z would probably be very comfortable with them, do you really want to trust your entire wealth to the advice you're getting from this standpoint?
Yeah.
What messages do you have to your advisors on how to stay competitive there?
Yeah, I think pretty similar. I don't know. I have an opinion that as advisors, we always think people are more interested in their investments and their stuff than they really are, right? I remember a mentor years ago told me, he's like, you think people are interested in it because it's the business that you're in, but he's like, and this was someone worth a lot of money. He's like, I want someone that I can trust, that I know is going to take care of everything for me. So I think, very specifically to AI, I think what we're telling all our advisors is be looking at ways that some of these tools can equip you to better serve your clients. Whether that's, I think in the past, like this idea of a family wealth office where you were coordinating the tax, the estate planning, the investment, the insurance, all of those things. That was a lot of work for an advisor, very specifically like an independent advisor. Part of the value, I guess, we've probably provided through the years is trying to help support that. But now, I think we're seeing a lot of tools out there that can make some of those things a little bit easier to do. Things like tax loss harvesting have become such a huge part of what advisors are doing to add value. So I think it's a little bit more of like not being afraid of some of this and embracing it to provide more value to your clients. And then I would say if there's a second thing that we've been preaching that I think is maybe the most important thing, I would say is that I believe human connection and experiences are going to become that much more valuable. In this era of kind of AI and technology and automation, I think people, and I think you're already starting to see it. I think We were one of those companies early on that said we weren't going to be a remote work company, that we were going to work from work. And now you're seeing that trend of people are like, yeah, this kind of stinks when I have no real human connection and relationships. So I think for advisors, and I say this all the time, it's the thing that they do that gets overlooked so much is the relational aspect of how they help people plan for and enjoy their retirement. So I would say use the tools to help you better serve your clients first. And then second, focus on human connection, relationships, experiences, which for us, we say all the time, some of these tools should free you and your team up to be able to focus more on those things.
Yeah. Well, you have some amazing advisors like Lehman Lewis up in Colorado and Chris
Yeah.
Hurling down in Austin, Texas. And um, their relationships that they build and they nurture, and they're always putting that client's best interest first. And the more they do that, the luckier they get in business.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it's crazy when you do the right thing and take care of your clients that seems to grow. So it's a pretty winning formula for sure.
well, here's the big question I wanted to ask you today, and this all relates to it, is what can the industry do to help improve the image of financial advisors and wealth managers?
I think there's a few things actually. One is just I think how we position the role that the advisor plays, right? And what I mean by that, I think Henry is like, and you've probably heard me say this before. I think when this business is done well, so when an advisor does their job well, I think it's the most noble profession in the entire United States. I've said this. People who have been an advisor success have heard me tell this story a million times. But I was with one of our advisors, Bill Smith. We were down in Sarasota. We were vacationing actually, and he got a phone call and said, "Hey, I need to take this." And it was one of his clients, and her husband had literally passed away like 3 hours before that. And all he said is, "Just call Bill. He'll take care of everything." Right. So I don't know that he was the first call she made, but he was one of the first calls, right? And I told Bill that I'm like, man, how powerful is that? That she lost her husband 3 or 4 hours ago, and you're one of the first people she called because she knew that you and your team were going to take care of everything and make sure that she was okay. One of our advisors up in Kansas City just helped his client sell. He had a big HVAC business that he had started from the ground up, was able to help him sell that business. This is a guy who worked in that business every day, blue collar job, is now enjoying retirement. Scott's been able to help him plan trips, just like they're living their best life now ever. And that is the big one. I mean, I think our industry has to get back to like, it's not just about building an investment portfolio. It's like, how do we actually help you do all these things so you don't have to worry about that and you can go enjoy life. But also like you're there for those clients. And why I say it's one of the most noble professions, you are there for those clients during some of the highest highs. So I always say Alicia tells this story great. She's like, when I get to tell a client who's been working for the last 40 years that they've got enough saved and there's no way they're going to run out of money and they can walk in and retire next week, she's like, that is a great feeling, right? So you're there for some of the high highs, but man, you're consoling clients when they lose a loved one that they've been married to for a long time or get diagnosed with cancer or Alzheimer's or something like that. So it's a noble profession, and I think we need to honor and celebrate that more would be one. Second, and I do think this is important. We so many of our advisors have gotten their CFP test passed and stuff like that. And I say, at times, I do think our industry could do more to require a little more in-depth education. And I think the people who are serious about this do put that extra work in to get. There's always been arguments about do some of these designations matter or not. And what I always tell everyone is like, what they prove to me is that you're a professional and you're dedicated to making sure that you're learning and educating yourself and being able to put yourself in the best position to do a good job for your clients. So, as you know, I think we do 60 plus live events a year where we're bringing advisors together to learn. And I just think education's a big part in this industry, especially as that is changing. And then if there were a third one, I would say, so those are two important ones, I think, is just honoring what the profession really can be, focusing on education and growth. The third one is always a frustration is like, we should get bad actors out of our industry as quickly as possible. And I think there's times where you see people who are bad actors who somehow get 9 lives in this industry. And some of that's a little bit of a disjointed regulation system between insurance and investments and FINRA versus SEC, state stuff. So I think there could be a little better coordination of that. I think that's getting better because now it's so much easier than it used to be to go research your advisor. So that's, any consumer that listens, that's what I would always tell them is like, go online, search for that advisor, see if you can find anything about them. Not reviews are a little tricky in our industry, as you know. It's a little tougher to do that. But now, people can leave Google reviews if they're unsolicited and some stuff like that. So do your research. Make sure that you're working with someone who's reputable and hasn't done some bad things in the past.
Hmm, great advice. I see our time is almost up. Is there any one last thing you wanted to add before we say goodbye?
Just and I would speak to both sides. On the advisor side, just never lose sight of when you do your job well, it impacts a lot of people. I just the amount of families that I see our advisors serve and serve well. And like I said, I truly believe it's the most noble profession. You know more about these families you're serving than probably anyone else in their life. And I think that's something that should be taken very, very seriously. And I hope most advisors would do that. I think sometimes it can just have an impact that sometimes I don't think they even realize. So that would be one. And then second, I think to consumers, I always say is like a good advisor, like you almost can't pay them enough, right? If you can find a good advisor who can help you navigate these things, specifically, Henry, as you know, so many of our advisors are kind of helping those people as they transition into retirement. That's such a
Right.
tricky time, because you're no longer getting that paycheck that you've been used to counting on. So finding a good advisor who can help you navigate those things is one of the best decisions that you can make.
Okay. Thank you so much. You touched on so many important things and really appreciate you being here today. So, to all our viewers, we say, keep those clients healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Thank you, Henry.
Thank you, Cody.